In this quick video, I'm going to give you 5 mobility movements that you can do as the perfect midday reset, but it's also great to mobilize first thing in the morning or to release tension when you're getting ready for bed. So we want to work through all the major joints, but we're also going to kind of start from the top down and try to hit a little bit of everything. And the way we're going to do that is first with some neck cars. So these differ a little bit from traditional neck rolls in that we don't want to crank the neck all the way back. Instead, you want to think about sitting comfortably first, cross-legged, or you can sit on your shins. And imagine you have a marker on the tip of your nose and you're drawing a circle with that marker without breaking the line. So we're going to start by turning the head over to the right and then looking all the way up, making like a rainbow with our nose almost all the way to the left, tilting our chin down and to the chest and then bringing it back to the right. So do that 2 more times in this direction. Again, I'm really just kind of extending the neck without, tilting my head all the way back so that I'm crunching the back of the neck. And now when we get to the right again, let's switch it. So starting facing to the left and then looking up and all the way over. You should feel maybe some cracking, but definitely a nice stretch, especially along the front and sides of the neck. Let's get one more. And when you come back down to center, you can just lift the head up. And let's get into the shoulders. So first I want to go ahead and lay down flat on the floor. You can extend your legs, but I like to keep my knees bent, feet flat on the floor, about hip width apart, just for more stability. Make sure you've got some room behind you so you can extend your arms all the way back. And let's go ahead and just extend the arms so that the backs of the hands are on the ground. Your hands should be about shoulder width or a little wider, especially if your shoulders are tight, they might need to be a bit wider. And as we're doing this, starting here, we want to make sure that we're engaging our core a bit. So we're not arching the back, the ribs aren't flaring, we're tucking the tail just so that our lower back is making contact with the ground, and then knitting the ribs in so that nothing is moving as we start to move our arms. So taking a deep diaphragmatic breath, keeping the core engaged, what you're going to start to do is just bend those elbows and drag the backs of your hands along the ground without lifting them up. So we're getting to this 90-degree bend, these kind of what we call goalpost arms. And our goal is to keep the elbows and the backs of the hands on the floor for as long as possible. So keep dragging those hands down and bend the arms more until you go as far as you can. Then straighten the arms, and let's do that again. So arms up over the head, keeping the core engaged so that you're not flaring the ribs or arching the back. And now drag those hands so that the backs of the hands are on the ground. Try to get to that 90-degree goalpost arms, and then keep dragging them down. Your elbows probably won't touch your waist, but the goal is just to get as much mobility in those shoulders as possible. And once you've done a couple of those, you can roll off to one side and sit yourself up. And now we're going to come to all fours. So tabletop position, as we say in yoga. Hands right under the shoulders, knees right under the hips so that you're kind of making a box or looking like a table. And part of being a table means you have a nice flat back. We're not doing a pelvic tuck here, and we're also not arching the back or sinking into our shoulders. We want to lift up out of the shoulders by pressing our palms into the ground, And then again, engage the core and lift up out of the hips so that we're not dumping into the hips or lower back. So this does take a little bit of strength, but the idea is to support every other part of our body so that we can find some release here in the shoulder by doing a thread the needle stretch. So I'm going to start with my left side so you can see. And what I want to do is lift this left arm up. If you can even open it up towards the ceiling a little bit, great. And then I'm going to thread my left arm under my right, keeping my right palm on the ground. My left palm is facing up and my arm is straight right in line with my shoulder. You should feel a really nice stretch along the back side of this left shoulder. And again, I want to keep my core engaged just a bit here so that my weight isn't leaning to one side or the other. Nothing else should move because the twist that's happening here in your thoracic spine starts from the belly button. We don't want to tweak our hips or tweak the lower back by twisting the hips. So the pelvis should be facing the ground completely. Taking another breath here. And then on your exhale, you can press into that right arm, shift the hips back a little bit, and reset for the other side. So again, making sure we're not dumping into the shoulders. Back is flat, core is a little bit engaged, and we're going to lift the right arm up. See if you can twist it open a little bit, again, without opening up that hip or leaning too far to one side. And then I'm going to thread my right arm now underneath the left so that the back of my arm is on the ground. My hips are still right over my knees. And I'm just twisting from the waist up, getting a super nice stretch on my lat, on my traps a little bit too. You might feel it on the side of your neck. And really opening up here. The slower and deeper you can breathe, the more opening you will find in any stretch, because that will activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which tells your body that you are safe and can relax. So push into that left hand to come out of this one and come back to tabletop. If you have any wrist issues and putting the pressure on your wrist hurts, you can always make a fist. If it bothers your knees, put a blanket under your knees in that one. So now we're going to come back to tabletop and we're going to do some cars, but for the hips now. Again, if your wrists are getting tired, you can just make fists to give yourself that support. Again, I'm going to start on the left so you can see. And what we want to do here is go through that same rotation, but in the hip joint. And I'm going to do that by, again, making sure I have a nice flat back, lifting out of my shoulders and hips, engaging my core, and I'm going to lift my knee and try to see if I can touch it to my elbow. Then I'm going to externally rotate in the hip to turn the knee out like a fire hydrant, like I'm peeing on a fire hydrant. Turn my knee to face the back wall, rotate the hip internally so it's facing down, and I'm kind of doing a donkey kick here, again, without arching the back. Keep the core engaged. And then bring it down and do it again. So knee to elbow, knee externally, hip externally rotates so your knee's out to the side. Bring it back as far as you can. Turn it so that the bottom of the foot is facing up and bring it back in. Now we're gonna go the other way. We're gonna donkey kick up. You're gonna externally rotate the hip so your knee's facing out. Try to touch that elbow to the knee and bring it down. One more time. Now, you might have a really small range of movement here if your hips are tight, and that's okay. That's why we want to practice this consistently to increase that range of motion. Okay, set the left leg down, and now we're going to do the right. So lifting the right knee, try to touch it to your right elbow. Open that leg up to the side. Turn the knee to the back, and then flip the hip down so that the bottom of your foot's facing up and bring it back in. Knee to elbow, knee out to the side. You might get some crackles and pops in there. Internally rotate the hip and bring it back down. And now we're going to reverse. So donkey kick up. Again, keep that core engaged. Knee out to the side, knee to the shoulder. Bring it down for one more. Kick that leg up, knee out to the side, knee to the elbow, and go ahead and drop it down. You can go ahead and give your wrists a shake if they're getting tired. And we're gonna do one more mobilization that also kind of gets the knee and ankle involved, and it's called a 90-90. This is a really common, probably one of the most common mobilizations for the lower body. It's great to do, honestly, multiple times a day. I usually do it multiple times a day, especially after sitting. So it's called a 90-90 because you're making a 90-degree angle with both legs. I'm gonna start with my right leg in front. And again, you might have a small range of motion. Your knees might be way off the ground. That's okay. We're trying to just find where we are today and practice more and more so that we can increase our mobility. So starting here, what I'm gonna do is put my hand behind me for support, and I'm gonna try to lift up my left knee, keeping my foot on the ground as much as I can, while keeping my right knee down. And then once I can't anymore, I kind of end up in this like middle 90-90 position, and I'm gonna swap to the other side. So now my left knee is gonna go down. I'm gonna keep this one up as long as I can. Let it drop down so that I'm facing the other direction now. My legs are still both at about 90 degrees. And now I'm gonna reverse it. So I'm gonna lift that knee up. Again, this movement is coming from the hip. You always want your hip, knee, and your knee should always be about over your second or third toe. You want to keep that alignment so that you're not tweaking in any of your joints. And this can be really common with the knees. So just kind of practicing this alignment where you're moving from the hip and not moving from the knee or the ankle in isolation is really helpful if you're experiencing those aches and pains, especially in the knee. But we also want to train our joints to stay in the right position and train our mind to recognize what that position is for our body. So after you do those a few times, you also might get some cracks in your back as you sit really tall doing this, kind of going back and forth. But those are just a few examples that you can take 10 or 15 minutes to do every day. And if you do it consistently, I promise it will make a big difference in how your joints will feel. Lubricate the joints. It'll also be a great nervous system reset if you can get more comfortable with it and be able to breathe a little slower and easier, and then either get ready for bed or move on with your day. Thanks.